All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another round 2 match of the Super Metroid multi-category tournament. Today, our matchup is between LakeDemon and richman3mm. My name is Kip. Hope you guys are having a fantastic Friday. I'm really excited to be on comms for this matchup. This should be really fun. Both runners are 1-0. Rich, being the higher seed, opted to veto GT Classic and vetoed 100%, and so we are now having an 80% all bosses race, and the boys should be starting here shortly. All right, and we're off. We'll get the stream synced up here shortly. 80% all bosses. Let's do a quick rundown. It's very similar to any percent. You obviously have to kill all the major bosses like you normally would, but in addition, you have to make sure to kill all the mini bosses as well. So the mini bosses that you will see in this run that are not typically a part of an any percent run will include Crocomire, Spore Spawn, and Golden Terizo. Clearly, the runners will also be killing Bomb Terizo and Batoon as well. But that, those are too many bosses that occur in basically all the any percent runs. So should be fairly interesting. And similarly to any percent, there are actually many options for routing. My assumption is that the two runners, my assumption will be that Rich maybe will do a Phantoon first route. I don't know if he will choose to do a Spazer route or a Plasma route. We'll wait and see. LakeDemon, I'm not actually overly familiar with all of Lake's run, so we might see an old route run. We'll just have to wait and see, but we'll be able to tell that here in a few minutes. In the meantime, they're going to start here in Series Station. Rich does appear to be slightly ahead in terms of what's on the screen, but remember the timers are not completely synced yet. So we got a 44.85 by Rich. Lake coming in with a 44.97, so very close. Good job so far. Gotta love the Kenny Loggins reference in the chat there. Hope everybody in chat's doing well and feeling good today, or better, hopefully, on this fine Friday. All right, now we're getting everything synced up. Let's see who actually is in the lead. Looks like Lake is frames ahead at the moment. We'll see how long that lasts. I will also take this moment at the beginning of this race to give a quick caveat. I've been given this caveat for every commentary that I do during this tournament. I am the proud owner of a brand new young puppy, and she's over here right now working on a chew treat to keep herself busy during this race. So if you happen to hear a few noises in the background, my apologies, but pretty much can't be avoided. So Rich and Lake now heading down to pick up their. They're going to be grabbing the Morph Ball and the Alpha Missile before they head up to get their bombs. So Rich had a little bit of trouble with his Moonfall, falling behind just a bit here. I'm not 100% sure. I can double check here in a moment. I don't know what each of their PBs is for 20% all bosses, because it's not a category that is run, overly extensively. The leaderboard for it is on the extension boards, and there weren't, tons and tons of times on the board before this tournament, but I do think it'll be fun to see more times crop up and more competition. Currently, Zost is the world record holder of this category, and unless I'm mistaken, I believe Zost did the what I call sort of the 80% all bosses new route. It's the Spazer route, very close to new route 80%, and it never goes over to Plasma and includes Spore Spawn early. In second place is actually me, unless anybody else has updated since then. My run is a fan-tuned first run that includes sort of more old route concepts. Later, I go and path over to Plasma before doing all the rest of the mini bosses. So definitely a lot of options for this category, and it's a lot of fun to run, and hopefully we'll see more people run it as we progress through this tournament. All right, seeing a couple different types of climbs here. Looks like Rich is a few seconds behind. They're entering the parlor, as has been mentioned in many, short races and commentaries. The early game of Super Metroid is actually, in my opinion, quite difficult, especially when people were, in the early stages of their speedrun development. These early rooms can be very hard. The climb is difficult. Parlor's a difficult room. And even pit room, I think, is very difficult when you're first getting started. So for anybody out there who is currently starting to run this game or considering it, don't get overly frustrated by the early rooms when you first get started. Just kind of stick with it, and it'll eventually fall into place. And there are plenty of other rooms later that will be, less complex as you get through the run. But we're doing a little Bomb Chorizo fight here. And looks like they killed Bomb Chorizo pretty close to the same amount of time. I think Lake is still slightly ahead here. Looking good on the ammo and energy. So is Rich. So now they will get ready to head to Terminator to pick up their first E-Tank. And then directly after that, we'll get a sense, more than likely, for which route each one of these runners is going to run. If it's going to be an old route slash, Kraid first run, more than likely they will take damage from the pirates. And then if it's going to be a fan-tuned first run of some kind, more than likely they will kill the pirates. My assumption, knowing Rich, I'm fairly familiar with Rich's runs. I've actually raced against Rich many times in different tournaments. I'm pretty confident he'll do a fan-tuned first route. It looks like he is. It also looks like Lake is going to do the same thing. So this is pretty hype. We will most likely see some similar routing between the two for the first 10, 12, 13, 14, 15 minutes or so. Even if you do a fan-tuned first route, though, there are actually still several options for routing that happen later on in the stages of this run. So we'll kind of have to wait and see what they do. All right, so picking up that early super missile, Rich is now going to head out, and Lake just barely behind here. And someone should tell me, I actually don't remember what the name of this room is, this long hallway. I don't know what the official name for it is. I know the decor is in here. Rich, unfortunately, which this can happen, kind of ran into his bomb at an awkward time and bounced himself into the enemy there. But it shouldn't make that much of a difference. The Rio doesn't do a ton of damage there. And both runners picking up that ever-important charge beam and going to head to the Green Hills room. This is another one of those spots where learning how to do a mock ball is actually fairly cool to this room. This is one of my favorite early game rooms. When it goes well, it always feels really good. Get those D-boosts. Richman does a very nice job. Lake doing a great job of unmorphing there for that low hopper RNG, and was able to unmorph and continue his momentum. So he got through that room quite quickly as well. Very impressive, looking good. And as we can see, Rich is now heading up to grab the alpha power bombs, and most likely for most players going to be the only power bomb pack that you pick up in the run. Lake, on the other hand, however, is heading down. So let's talk about this for just a moment. If Lake ends up doing what I refer to as sort of the old route method for completing this category, you're actually going to be watching an old route run almost to the T for the next at least 20 minutes or so, because all of the extra mini bosses that LakeDemon will eventually kill will not occur until very late in the run. So the old route method waits until, like, it's basically old route all the way to Plasma. And then after Plasma is when you'll start routing in Crocomire, typically on the way to Lower Norfair. You'll kill GT when you get to Lower Norfair, and then you will also, kill Spore Spawn last on your way to G4. So you won't actually see much difference between a regular old route run and this category until, way later in the run. Rich, on the other hand, has a few more options. It just depends on if he runs the sort of Spazer route or the Plasma route, how he'll fit in those extra mini bosses. However, I will say this, given the fact that Rich did not kill Spore Spawn the first time through Big Pink, does indicate to me that the most likely scenario is that he will run the hybrid route where he kills Fantoon first, then goes down to collect all the Upper Norfair items, and then either kills Kraid or Dragon in a certain order before getting the Plasma Beam and then finishing everything else up. Excellent CWJ by Rich. Fantastically done there. Moat is a very scary room. I don't care how experienced you are in this game. In a race scenario, the Moat room is always still fairly intimidating and can be very problematic. So great to see him get across on the first try. Lake, on the other hand, having a little bit of difficulty with Kraid, couldn't get the quick kill, and unfortunately, Kraid is being very difficult here in terms of drops. Didn't drop hardly any missiles to begin with. Lake having to rely on simply some pea shooter charge shots, but finally getting a few missiles and cleaning this up quite nicely, and does get some good drops from Kraid. And now we'll see how it goes from here. All right, so this is, in many cases, one of the most dangerous sections of a Fantoon first route. Obviously, fighting Fantoon early without any suits and with very little energy. Rich is doing a good job so far. He got a fast on the first round, but unfortunately took a little bit. Probably got hit one more time more than he wanted to. He gets kind of a tough pattern here on the second round. The second round slow patterns on both sides, and I think most runners would agree with this, that run this Fantoon first pretty extensively. The slow rounds on the slow left and slow right on the second plus rounds is actually usually pretty awkward, and we just saw that. Rich really needs to be careful here. If he gets hit, he will die. Oh, wow. Unbelievable. Rich had a small energy across the room, but he couldn't reach it in time, and then had to hope that Fantoon did not pop out at a problematic spot. But considering how many missiles he was able to get in on the first and second round Dopplers, he was able to missile and then immediately super Fantoon without getting hit by a flame. That was very, very close to ending that run very early. So I'm glad to see that did not happen. Obviously, nobody ever roots for a runner to die at any point. In the meantime, Lake doing what you would typically see in old route, picking up the high jump boots and high jump boot energy tanks and missiles. I'm not surprised to see the high jump boot missile be picked up. Typically, most runners, not everybody, but most people are probably going to run 20, 10, 5 in terms of ammo. If you're doing old route, usually, high jump boots is going to be the better option for the 20 missiles as opposed to the Moat missiles, or at least that's, most people are going to pick those up. Whereas when Rich gets there, it's pretty common for him to skip the high jump boot missiles because he has those Moat missiles. So plus he'll have power bombs in that room. So he will most likely skip those missiles, but they'll both still get to 20. They'll just be getting a slightly different 20th pack, if that makes sense. Lake doing, oh my goodness, that was pretty trolly. He had it at Bubble Mountain, but then couldn't quite get up there, and then the Waver and the CAC both kind of trolled him a little bit. This room, in particular, when you're, still pretty new to the game, is very challenging and very intimidating. And even to this day, I mean, there are still runs where, I mean, I've played Super Metroid quite a bit, and I still fall down at Bubble Mountain sometimes. So it's a tough room. Richman having no trouble getting through the bowling spikes and took the minimum 2 hits there, but didn't have any other trouble. He's going to pick up his gravity suit, and then he's going to make his way down to Norfair to start his item collection. Luckily, Rich did not get the gravity suit skip, which is not super common, but actually can happen. And when it does, let me tell you, it feels bad. But Rich gonna turn around here. Oh, he did the jump method, which I actually do that as well. I really like the jump method out of gravity. It is admittedly a little bit slower than doing the D boost off of the Ripper below. When you're talking about like a Fantoon first, where you don't have speed booster or high jump boots, it's a little bit slower, not by much, but for some runners who maybe want to prioritize some consistency, I think it's a pretty solid strat. And he did a very nice morph and unmorph through that door. That's pretty tricky to get. That allowed him to bypass landing on that platform and resetting his fall speed. So that was a very nice strat there. Lake, in the meantime, has picked up his speed booster and also now wave beam. And traditionally, when you're doing the old route version of this category, traditionally people are going to continue on like normal and just go ahead and leave Norfair and head up to Red Tower to get power bombs and then kill Fantoon and wreck ship. But technically it is possible for people to go ahead now and kill Croc. Technically, if you wanted some safety E-tank, like beyond what you currently have, it wouldn't be a terrible decision. But the primary reason that most people want to save Croc in this route until later is because if you have the plasma beam, it's a lot easier to kill Croc. You can do it in one shot, and it's a nice path after you pick up the ice beam straight down the Crocomire, Croc Speedway. So as you can see, Lake did opt to do sort of the standard, more traditional thing of waiting, and he should be in good shape for his Fantoon fight here shortly. A little bit of a high five here on the elevator. Richmond now in the business center, which I think is one of the best room names in the game. You'll note here that Lake, another small factor, it's very small, but just point out some differences. LakeDemon has not yet broken the tube because he still, even at this point, doesn't have a power bomb. Nice Alpha Spark, by the way, by LakeDemon there. But he hasn't broken the tube yet, whereas Rich has. It's not, a major time save, but it will lead to some faster strats for Rich to be able to run when he enters that room again later when he's on his way to Meridia versus what Lake will have to do. So as noted, I believe, unless someone wants to correct me, I do believe that Rich skipped over that missile pack and high jump boots. I like that pseudo screw mock ball strat right there to get through the pre-cathedral room. It's funny, I can't remember the name of that room either. But yeah, I think the last missile pack you're going to see him pick up will be at Wave, and he'll be running 2010-5. Lake doing a nice job getting up Red Tower, getting his power bombs. And now he's going to set a few power bombs in this room, or one in this room to open that door, so he won't have to do it on the way down when he's done with the Fantoon. And then he's going to have a few more orange doors to open up here when he gets to the surface back to Criteria. Rich opting to actually open that speed booster door with a super. That actually can save a few frames. Most people don't do it that way unless they're pretty, full on supers or whatnot, or maybe even don't even have enough missiles. There are so many different circumstances and different categories that you can run into with ammo when you get to these junctures, especially in a no reset scenario. But he knew he would farm a few times and got really nice drop luck. He's back to being full on regular missiles, supers, and power bombs. Let me point something out. First of all, Lake has done a nice job of getting the shine sparks across the ocean. But take a look at Rich real quick. This is something, a small nuance thing that actually can make a pretty big difference. He only has one power bomb at the moment. And the single chamber room, the room he just left that he will return to in a moment, has a few Alcoons in it. Those are those little seahorse looking guys, and they will drop power bombs like 99.6%. I would highly suggest, if someone were to ask, for them to pick up either one, if not two power bombs in this circumstance. Definitely one, because you want to use one to get through Bubble Mountain, and then you're going to need some later as you go to Meridian and whatnot as well. There's a really great strat you can use when you're leaving the wave beam area. Rich having a little bit of trouble here, but there's a great strat you can use where you actually fire a diagonal shot with a missile at the first Alcoon that jumps right here, and you can actually pick that power bomb up at the top of that ledge. Rich did not opt to get any power bombs. He's going to be at 0, and depending on where he goes next, he's going to have to really think about this. He might actually... It might be a good idea in this scenario to just stop in Frog Speedway and grab a full reload. I know it's slow. It'll take a few seconds, but probably worth it. Okay, good call. I like the call, especially in a race. In the meantime, Lake is having his Fantoon fight. I will be honest with you. I missed the first round. I didn't see if he tried to X Factor. I see he's at 0 power bomb, so I assume he did. And unfortunately, it looks like we have an enraged Fantoon. Maybe we're like 1 or 2 missiles short here, unfortunately. But yeah, another small thing. Rich, technically, like, a lot of people don't know about some of the small nuances of this category, and it's to be expected because it's not a category a lot of people have run. But what you could do to supplement the amount of power bombs that you have if you're doing a Fantoon first route here is you could double farm the hoppers in the pre-cathedral room. Those guys drop power bombs as well. And then if you supplement that last Alcoon power bomb drop, then typically you're not going to run into any trouble with the minimum amount you need for Meridia. Note that Rich went to Meridia second, so he's on his way to kill Dragon as the second boss. It's not significantly faster or slower to do Kraid or Dragon second, but in theory, if you can pull it off, if you have the ammo counts for it, it's typically better to do Dragon second, because then you can save a second or two in the Kraid layer area, because you have Space Jump and Plasma Beam, and on top of that, you get a nice refill on your supers from Mini Kraid before you head down to presumably do a Green Gate glitch at Lower Norfair, which we'll talk about that when we get there. Rich having a little bit of trouble with the beginning of this Botwoon fight, only was able to hit 2 X Factors and then missed a few supers. So this fight is legitimately going to be a little bit longer than he wants. He's got at least 1, if I think 2 more charge shots now he's got to hit. And Botwoon typically doesn't cooperate because he's a troll. All right, there we go. Let's take a look at Lake real quick. Going to do a nice Attic Spark. And I'm going to be honest with you. I know technically once you start getting into way more advanced strats in an old route setting, you wouldn't typically do that strat anymore. But that was one of the first sparks I ever learned how to do, and it felt super swag. So I'm always going to be a fan of Attic Spark. I think it looks cool. Rich coming up on full halfy, or halfy or full halfy attempt. Let's see what he goes for here. Oh, just barely, like just a few pixels shy of getting that down grab. So he will have to make his way through this room. Full halfy is a tough trick. It's not something that is going to be an auto pilot trick for people until much later in their development as a runner. But I will say this, it's definitely, I don't recommend people begin their training by trying to learn it because I don't think it's overly necessary. But it does make the Coliseum room quite awkward. I think Coliseum without full halfy, but with high jump boots is actually one of the more awkward rooms in a run. And Lake has finished up the bowling section with 17 energy. And he's going to grab his gravity suit. And I will say in advance, I don't want to commentator curse anybody, but Lake needs to be very, very careful as he makes his way back to the elevator here. Battle crabs in this game are no joke whatsoever. And if he were to take damage from a battle crab right now without getting any health or energy, excuse me, he would die. Unless I'm mistaken, I'm pretty sure the battle crab does 30 damage to, even now he would die. He needs to be very careful here. Okay, very good. So he's back above the threshold. He's going to farm this other one too. Does get some energy there. He probably maybe would have preferred a power bomb, but at the same time, he is going to need some energy heading into his Meridia section because, again, he's running an old route version, so he will head straight to Meridia at the moment. Rich, in the meantime, had a nice Dragon. I love that vertical space jump there on the way out in the Precious Room. And he did get a blue suit, but I think he maybe went for Spike Suit and didn't get it. I think I missed that part. But Rich is making his way. So generally speaking, I mean, you can't apples to apples compare the routes, but barring any kind of catastrophe, I would say Rich is in a comfortable lead at the moment. He still does have to do crate, of course, and he does have some future things to consider, like a green gate glitch, or he can go the slower route. Since he does have space jump here, he actually does have the option to drain the acid when he gets to Lower Norfair to get to GT. I don't know what one of the best players would say or if anybody's tested it, but I did a few tests the other day, and without using completely optimal strats, my timing came down to about 13 seconds. Draining the acid was about 13 seconds slower for me than getting a good solid first try green gate glitch. So it's definitely a double-digit deficit if you choose to drain the acid. But if you're, significantly ahead in a race and you are short on supers, might not be a terrible decision. Thank you, Zost. I didn't see that he lost his blue suit that way. Rich has a lot of energy because he got some good drops from Dragon, but also did not lose energy on the full halfy. So no real danger at the moment. He's now going to sort of casually make his way down to the toilet. Or maybe I should say up, then down to the toilet here. And then he's going to make his way into the Kraid's lair before he gets ready to finish up Norfair. In the meantime, LakeDemon, just a little bit behind, going to start his Botswoon fight. Let's see how it goes. Was able to get 3 X-Factor particles and then 2 supers. So at this point, he's hit Botswoon 8 of the 10 requisite times for 300 damage. But Botswoon's hitbox not playing along in his speed as well. He's going to have to hit him with 2 charge shots here because a charged wave shot does 150 damage, and everything on Botswoon is mostly divisible by 3. So a couple charge shots cleans that up nicely. And Lake will more than likely grab his 3rd tank here, just like you would in an old route run. And Rich, on the other hand, now entering Kraid's lair. And I don't know how much he or anyone else has practiced some of the nuances of this. There's not very many categories where you show up in this section with the plasma beam. But it is possible to use that beam to get a nice kill on Mini Kraid and the Pirates, and then also space jump across. Unfortunately, Rich was a little low on that jump and landed. Not a big deal, but would have been a little bit better to have been able to jump across with that momentum. Does a nice setup here with the bomb to get ready for his quick kill. LakeDemon going through Coliseum. And even though this is, again, an awkward room, it looks like he's moving quite smoothly, so it looks good. Nice D-boost there. And we have a quick kill by Rich. Nicely done. And we've got our various suit. As always, technically it is possible. I had this discussion with someone the other day. It is possible to get enough E-tanks in this category to do a stand-up glitch at the end with Mother Brain. And while the stand-up glitch would save some time, the amount of time invested to pick up the appropriate number of energy tanks would be much slower. But I guess technically speaking, you could run this route. It would be slower, but you could run this route without picking up Varia if you chose to get, several more energy tanks. So Rich will now head back to Norfair. He's going to pick up his Ice Beam and then make his way to Croc. Lake, in the meantime, trying to clean up this Dragon fight. Dragon's belly's getting quite red. Hopefully, Dragon will be dead soon. And I've mentioned this on commentary multiple times. Dragon is a tough fight. Obviously, it can be scripted. And if you execute properly, you can kind of get it to work the same way just about every time with just a little bit of difference. But I think it's a very difficult fight, and it punishes you very heavily when you make mistakes. The Dragon fight can get out of control really fast. And not only that, it can actually get out of control in any category in a lot of different types of ways, depending on what category it is. So Rich is going to lay this power bomb here, take the southern route down to Croc Speedway, stop and kill Croc. And then Lake, in the meantime, going to use this blue suit when he gets to the top of the precious room. And getting the reverse halfie here. Nicely done. And as you guys saw, one of the ways that this category is a little bit different, since you get to have Plasma Beam in Rich's route, when you get to Crocomire, you can basically one-shot Croc. If someone there's usually people in the chat that are a little more knowledgeable about some of the game design of Super Metroid in terms of like how things are built. Sometimes you can actually shoot Croc with a charged plasma shot and it won't trigger the entire, march to death. If anybody has any insight about why that happens sometimes, that would be great. I actually don't know why it happens, but it just does sometimes. Phoenix, are you saying sometimes it takes two to make a thing go right? I know Lake's stream got frozen for a second, but that's actually a pretty gratifying still image there. A giant explosion of Puyo pile, a pile of Puyo. But looks like we're back now. Rich, let's see if he goes left or right. In this case, I would go left. Yes, okay. So Rich, having only 4 supers, is going to opt to go to the left, drain the acid. This is definitely going to be double-digit seconds slower. However, he is, in a pretty commanding lead right now. So I think this is a good call. No risk, losing any extra time by accidentally missing the green gate glitch. For the record, if you do miss the green gate glitch in this category, it does not mean the end of your run, though, because you can turn around, power bomb yourself back up to the main entrance of Lower Norfair, and then go drain the acid. It's just a lot slower. Now, I will say this: if you're running the Spazer route, though, and you do that, then you're pretty much screwed, because the Spazer route will not have the space jump at this juncture. So, you have to make sure you are on point with your green gate glitch in that particular route. Richman cleaning up GT very quickly with those charge plasma ice wave shots. Lake, meanwhile, picking up his ice beam. One of the cool things that I do like a lot about this category, it's technically not mandatory, but most runs that look like an 80% run do not get the screw attack. This category, you're right there by it, and screw attack can really help you with a lot of different options for strats in Lower Norfair, in particular if you're doing the plasma route where you have space jump. So roughly 7-second time investment to get a really fun item, and we'll see Rich take advantage of this item. This category has, I'm not going to call it free. I don't like to call anything free in Super Metroid. But if you're going through Lower Norfair, which is without question the most dangerous place in the game in terms of the amount of damage that the creatures do and stuff like that, to go through this with a full 3 energy tanks, plasma beam, and on top of that screw attack, this is pretty much the most comfy you're gonna have Lower Norfair outside of Hundo or GT Classic. So LakeDemon has finished up Croc and is waiting on Croc's skeleton. Rich, in the meantime, is going to be killing some metal pirates, but man, I think that first metal pirate only dropped like 1 super, and then the second one only dropped 3. He doesn't really need a ton of supers right now, but I think most players would prefer, if you could get a super drop, I'd usually rather get it than anything else, other than specific niche situations. But Richmond having the full beam combo, going to take 20 shots on Ridley here to dispatch the Space Pelican, and he's got a pretty comfy amount of energy. LakeDemon doing a little bit of refilling here before he gets ready to go to Lower Norfair. He still needs to kill Ridley and GT and Spore Spawn, whereas Rich, once he dispatches Ridley here, will only have 1 boss left, and that'll be Spore Spawn. So Ridley getting nice and pink here, gonna be ending this fight fairly soon. Looks like he's moving into position, and nice fight by Rich there. And we have an exploding Ridley. Pretty neat lag reduction there. I'm going to guess it's in the ballpark of, somebody else could probably tell me exactly, maybe 2 to 4 frames, I think. Rich actually used a regular missile in that Ridley farm room on the way out to open the blue door instead of using a plasma shot. That actually does save a small number of frames of lag that the plasma shot does cause there. Traditionally, though, I personally don't typically switch to missiles. It is definitely faster, but it also does require a little bit more, heaviness on the inputs of the room, if you will. It's not super complicated, but a lot of times I just kind of roll with the beam. But I do think it's cool that Rich went for that and got it. Sometimes your speed in that room can make it a little awkward to get that deboost, so that was a nice job by him. LakeDemon is cleaning up. Whoa, holy supers, Batman. Look at those supers from the GT eggs over there. That would have been the RBO dream right there. Speaking of RBO, ladies and gentlemen, we are nearing the sort of home stretch here, the weekend of round 2 of this tournament. And next week, round 3, we will have our first inclusion of 2 of the more difficult categories in terms of at least speedrunning them casually. In Super Metroid, RBO will actually be on the list of potential categories next week. So I am curious to see how many people veto it versus how many people choose to run it. It should be fun. I hope we at least get 1 or 2 races of RBO next week. And then in week 4, I believe we have low ice on the docket too. So we got a lot of cool potential races coming up here in the next several weeks. All right, Lake is heading down into the wasteland area. He's got plenty of power bombs, so he will not need to get the power bombs of shame here. Rich, meanwhile, is here's a really interesting thing about this particular routing when you get the plasma beam in this category. No matter what route you take, as long as you have plasma beam, then you're typically going to fight Spore Spawn last, which means you get to path back into Big Pink, which is not traditionally a way you would go. Sometimes in RBO you can go this way if you prefer it over the Red Tower, although I do believe Red Tower optimally is a little bit faster. I usually go this way in RBO just because I think it's novel. But Rich is going to path backwards through these rooms with way more equipment. The only time you really typically see people pathing through here this way with this equipment is near the end of a hundo run. But he's going to make his way back into Big Pink and then up to Spore Spawn. I find it kind of ironic that technically one of the very first gatekeeping bosses you're supposed to fight in this entire game ends up being literally the last boss that you get to in this particular route in this category, and you're just so overpowered, like you're going in there with the screw attack and plasma. Pretty humorous. For the record too, this room this way is actually, in my opinion, quite awkward. This is a very tough room to optimize. In fact, I don't even really know what the optimal strat would be. I've come up with my own strat that I'm pretty comfortable with, but I'm like most things in Super Metroid, I'm fairly confident that if someone else with a with greater imagination and creativity were to take a look at it, they would probably come up with something much better. But it can be quite awkward with the way it's laid out and the items that you have at that juncture of the game. So 1 charge shot, and Rich should dispatch Spore Spawn there. Nicely done. Almost had a little bit of trouble. He does need to kill all the key hunters in this room on the way out, because that is a gray door, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't kill those key hunters, you're going to be stuck. So good to see him get those on the way out. LakeDemon was able to clean up Ridley pretty easily, and he's getting ready to exit Wasteland here. He's going to go for this Wasteland Speedball and nails it. Very nice. That's always a swag strat. I like that one a lot. Rich doing a good job of not falling into the pit to see the Decora. And he's going to make his way up this elevator to go back to G4. LakeDemon not having to worry about much in terms of key hunters. He has the plasma beam to clip through them, and also in a pinch the screw attack to jump through them. So once again, pretty comfy lower Norfair when you are in this category, in this route, with the items that you have. And LakeDemon giving those key hunters the business with the screw attack. Rich has made it to the G4 room. Golden 4 statues, and we are waiting for them to break in the, I guess, developer intended order. Maybe we've talked about this before too, but I always like the symmetry and the parallel of the colors of the G4 statues and also what each enemy stands for. It's a lot like Final Fantasy. Like in the original Final Fantasy, you got an Earth crystal. Let's see. In Final Fantasy, I believe it's Earth, Fire, Water, Wind. But there are 4 of them, and there's like a fiend for each one. Here, Ridley would be the boss most associated with fire. His gem color is actually red. Fantoon would be most associated with air. He in probably the best color of the 4 primary colors, it would be yellow for that, and he is yellow. Kraid is associated with earth, I would argue, and his is green. And then you've got Dragon at blue, who is associated with water. So I find that very, very cool and sort of fascinating. Rich doing a collection here of Metroids in the first room. He's being very diligent. Real quick, I will say I like that he's being diligent about the supers. However, he can't regular missile all of them because he wants to make sure he has some drops for energy. He's still likely to get full on energy, but at the same time, when you aren't full on regular missiles, then you aren't guaranteed to get energy drops because missiles and energy are on the same loot table or whatever. They're both tier 1 drops. So anyway, I could go on and on, but I think everybody gets it. Rich doing a good job here of getting a D boost. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's 4 energy short of being full at the moment because I think those big hoppers do 30. So he's at 365 instead of 369. We'll see if he gets the baby skip. Hopefully it won't affect him. He also technically has the option to save. He knows he's pretty far ahead here. Let's see if he gets this baby skip. I was going to say that second jump and landing seemed to be a bit awkward and unfortunately affected the baby's pattern there as well as the lag. So gets grabbed. The energy won't be an issue because he'll refill to full. And by the way, LakeDemon just entered Spore Spawn. Here's a small note for everyone out there who is speedrunning this category. Be very careful with that door transition. That door transition can be really awful. If you go all the way to the right of the room and then jump back left into that door, it will fix that door so far to the left that it will be an extremely slow transition back to the center. Whereas if you just jump straight all the way into the right side of that door, like all the way into the wall, you'll have a perfect door transition every time. So just be cognizant of that. You can actually lose more time there than you might would think. I like Rich's call here, getting the save in. He knows he's pretty significantly ahead. He's not likely to die to Mother Brain, but just in case he does, it would be a lot better of a situation for him to be able to just, load the save, finish up, and still win, as opposed to lose the entire run. So I think that's a good, prudent decision, and he would like to go to 3-0, or excuse me, 2-0, and he's going to do everything possible to try to make that happen. And Rich getting ready for a 20-shot Mother Brain 2 fight here. In the meantime, I have a puppy who has just woken up. Hopefully she won't say anything into the microphone here. Lake entering G4, and if you guys want to take another look, Kraid is green, Fantoon is yellow, Dragon is blue, and Ridley is red. Rich avoiding the first and only catch-up of this fight. And barring any other kind of weird catastrophe, Rich will be locking this up and moving on to round 3 of the Swiss portion at 2-0. So nicely done. Going to have a run that's just barely above 50 minutes. Probably, I would assume. I always have a hard time remembering how long certain things take in terms of cutscenes in this game. You'd think after running this game for this long that I would have a lot of this stuff memorized, but I just don't. But I'm gonna guess he's gonna probably be, the 51 range. That's my assumption. All right, so Rich is just chilling out here for a little bit. Ooh, we got a nice room 2 strat from LakeDemon there. Nicely done. Even fixed that door. That's a really nice strat. For those of you that might not run the game or maybe have only just started, I will tell you, this is just my personal opinion. Everybody can have their own opinion. Everybody's not going to agree with something as complex as this game, but I feel like the Metroid rooms are actually quite challenging. I think when you're first getting started and trying to get used to the controls and adjusting to all the rooms, I think the Metroid section, the Torian section, is actually very difficult and is a big difference between skill levels of runners. So if you're looking for an area to practice, those are pretty good rooms to get comfortable with at some point in the early stages of your development. Okay, so Lake doing a good job so far with this skip attempt. I think he's gonna need one. Yeah, I was gonna say he needs one more jump because his last jump was just a little low. It's hard to explain. You can just kind of eyeball this once you've done it hundreds and thousands of times. If he'd have just taken about one more second to do one more backtrack and jump, he would have had it. But his angle on that last one was just barely off. But that was a very good attempt, and he almost had it. Rich, in the meantime, has finished up Mother Brain 3 and started his escape sequence. They're going to do one final moonfall here, or attempt one final moonfall. Didn't quite get it there, but that's okay. And we got one more spark, and then he's going to do his parlor climb and make his way to the ship. Does look like he's going to end up with a 51 here. I would say at this juncture he's probably about 25 seconds away. So I'm just going to say 5150 is going to be my official guess. We'll see how it goes. How about that? Ladies and gentlemen, congratulations to richman3mm finishing with an official SRL time of 51 minutes and 51 seconds. He finishes in first place in this race. GG and congratulations to Rich for winning this for winning this race. That was a really nice race and a really nice run by Rich. Okay, Lake. Oh no! And unless I'm mistaken, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Lake just took a double shot from that catch-up. I wasn't looking closely because I was fixing a few things for the end of this race, but I believe he was at 433 health and took a double. Is that accurate? If so, that's very, very, very unfortunate. And even if not, then it's still, it's a bummer to get hit by a catch-up there. He kind of, Mother Brain kind of gave him a little bit of an awkward situation there, but that can happen to anybody. And with that, LakeDemon has forfeited from the race, but gave a great effort there. Had a really nice run going. And congratulations to him on a great race in round 2. And don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, it is a Swiss tournament in terms of the first 6 rounds. So that means that no one is ever out of the tournament. Everybody's guaranteed to have 6 games. So LakeDemon will remain in the tournament. He'll go to 1-1, and he will face another 1-1 opponent in round 3. So let's see if anybody wants to come in. Okay, I believe we are joined by Rich. Rich, are you there? Can you hear me?
Okay, I believe we are joined
Hold
by
on.
Rich.
Let's see. Rich, can we get you to maybe mute some stuff? I think something's feeding back, maybe. Hold on. Okay, real quick. Rich, can you hear me? Pretty confident that I can hear Rich. I think I hear you snapping, Rich. Can you hear me at the moment?
Hello?
Hi, Rich. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, man, welcome in. And GG, tell us about what you thought about that race.
Let me pause the stream real quick. There we go. It was good. I actually wound up missing PB by only 8 seconds. So I played a lot better today than I did last week.
Yeah, that was a really nice run, and obviously you didn't even get the baby skip there, so had you gotten that, you definitely would have had it by double digits, so that's really promising to see. And it's just one run scenario in a race where you even took some safety, so I can definitely see you getting a PB soon. So what do you think about this category? How do you
So that was my 6th run. It's been a lot of fun so far. I had a whole lot of rough going in the early game. Like, I think my first run was like a 55. My second run was like a 51 pace, and I died to Mother Brain. The third run was a 56, and then I had 2 runs in a row where I lost it, and then just got the PB last night, and then missed it here by only 8 seconds. But I feel like if I were to put the time in, I mean, it's a lot of fun, and I'll probably try to push for at least sub 50.
Yeah, I think you're definitely capable of that. And as you mentioned, I mean, in Super Metroid, even with the runner like you who has a lot of experience, anytime you're doing a new category with some nuanced changes, you know, you got to kind of iron out a few of the details along the way and stuff. So I think you could definitely do that. Tell us a little bit about your experience in the tournament so far. You know, congratulations on moving to 2-0. So that means next round, you know, you'll be with all the 2-0 runners. And we have RBO, triple bingo, and I think any percent bet next week. So how's your experience been, and what are you looking forward to?
So far it's been really good. A lot like I expected. The vetoes are going to work out where I doubt that I'll get to run what I'm here for. We'll find out in week 4. And I'm looking forward to this week, spending some time on RBO, because I haven't touched it since the 130. And I always enjoy these because it gives me the opportunity to approach all the different categories, and because I'm doing so many, it feels more casual to me. It's more fun than sitting down and doing, 30 any percent runs a week. To sit down and do 2 or 3 runs from different categories each night. And the only thing I'm really struggling with right now is when I load up the practice ROM, I have no idea what to work on.
Right, and I do agree with you. You know, and obviously both of us and everybody in this tournament enjoys Super Metroid speedrunning, but it is a cool and sort of more laid back experience to in a way, be overloaded with stuff to be able to do, you know? And so you
Right.
don't have to worry about grinding anything super hard to get a PB. It's just mostly, you know, getting refreshed and making sure you can run each category enough to do a race. So that's always fun for me. But yeah, great job. And I hope that you're referring to low ice for round 4. Is that what you're talking about?
Oh, absolutely. That's why I'm here.
Well, if you and I happen to race each other for some reason in that round, then I will promise you I will not stop you from running low ice.
Sounds like a plan.
It would be fun to do as well. I think every tournament that you and I have both been in, we've faced each other. Is that correct?
Yeah, because you weren't in the Dash tournament, so I think that's accurate.
Yeah, so who knows, man? Maybe we'll get a chance to revisit the friendly rivalry again. But hey, man, GG, if there's anything else you'd like to say, feel free. But otherwise, we'll wrap it up.
Thanks. No, that's about it from me. Just want to say shout outs to SpeedGaming, all the viewers. Thanks for allowing us to do what we do. It's always a pleasure, and we couldn't do it without you guys.
Definitely. I definitely mirror that. And on top of that, real quick, if you look at it at the bottom left of your screen, you'll note that we are sponsored. This tournament has actually cash prizes, sponsored very kindly by MegaCat Studios and Balls Guarana. I've been watching all the MegaCat Studios commercials that they're running on SpeedGaming right now, and I got to say, those games look pretty rad. So we'll see what happens when that, I don't know if it's out yet, but we'll see. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. We have several more races tonight for this Super Metroid tournament. I think there's like 3 or 4 more races tonight. We have several races tomorrow and then some on Sunday. So once again, thank you to LakeDemon and Richmond for putting on a show today. And thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. And we will see you next mission.